Hey guys, John L here. Hope you are all having a great day and kind of staying cool. It's been a little bit warm the past couple days. So let's talk about PvP. So Marvel Puzzle Quest is broken down into two main sections. One is PvE. Those are the prologue and story events. Those are basically the events where you're going to compete against a computer, and it's going to be these kind of story scenario situations that are set up, and there's progression rewards, and you know the drill. The other side is PvP, which is versus, and that is where you're kind of competing against other people, but not really. Even though you will see other people's rosters, it's really the computer that's going to be using them. There's actually not any direct competition between players and Marvel Puzzle Quest that I know of right now. So every month there is a season. Originally the seasons were numbered, but I can't remember quite when. It's been kind of a while. They decided to start naming the seasons after the Infinity Gems. So this is the space season, and it is about a little bit more than halfway through. I think these things go between 28 days. There's always about 6 days, something like that, in between seasons where they have these other non-season events. But the season is broken down into a few different things. First off, there's the big season event kind of placeholder thing right here. So when you jump into it, basically you'll choose a shield ranking, and the shield ranking will kind of dictate the level of competition that you're going to be playing against. At this point, I believe the maximum shield rank is 47, and the maximum shield rank cap is 125. So basically, if you're competing anything above level 47, you're going against people who can have 3-star main rosters to maxed out 5-star rosters. So they haven't really done a great job of kind of fleshing out the upper levels of the shield ranking yet. The lower shield levels are mainly, I think, to protect newer players, 1-star, 2-star, 3-star. So anyways, that's just kind of to give you an idea of what the level of competition that you'll be looking at. So let's say you decide to play a season, you jump into it, pick your shield rank level, and you'll get a list of progression rewards for the season. So what this is a list of all the rewards that you can get with combined points. So there are a couple different events that happen during the season, and these are the rewards that you'll get with the combined points. So they start off pretty small, and then eventually they kind of get bigger. 10 command points at 2,700. The big one, I think, is the Heroic 10-pack. That's what a lot of people seem to want to go after. It's a good chance to get some 4-star covers, 3-star covers. Sometimes you get screwed and only get a whole bunch of 2-star covers, but it's nice. It's 10 heroic tokens. And at the very end, there's 15 command points for 10,000. That's a lot of work. I think if you're a hardcore PvP player, you're probably landing this, but if you're not, you're probably not gonna really be in a chance to get this. So that's the overall progression for the season. So if we step back, we'll take a look at the couple events. First, there is, right now it's God of Lies, so every 2.5 days, I believe, there is a character-specific event. It can be a 3-star character or 4-star character. You don't have to have the character. If you don't, what they'll do is they'll give you kind of the stock, low-level version that at least you can have on your team and play with. They're actually kind of a hindrance, I guess, because if you don't generally play with 3-star characters, or if you have more powerful characters that usually use like 5s and 4s. You have to kind of accommodate these guys, but that's just kind of what the season is. The other part is the Shield Simulator. So this one actually spans the whole duration of the season, and there's 5 nodes you compete against, random players there. It has progression rewards. It doesn't have placement rewards, but the progression rewards go from 50, where you're going to be getting, you know, low levels of ISO and a whole bunch of 2-star covers. Then in the mid-rounds here, you're going to be getting some 3-star covers, and it all culminates with a 4-star cover of the newest 4-star character, or one of the newest 4-star characters if they've released a couple. So, your points from the Shield Simulator and your points from the character events are what you're going to, or what's going to be added together for these progression reward points for the whole season. So there's another one that's going on. The events generally overlap a little bit. Fly Fight Win is ending, God of Lies is about to begin, and then there's always the lightning round, but that's not part of the season. So let's take a look at the character-specific one. We'll jump into Fly Fight Win. So these, again, they go for 2.5 days, and there is progression rewards that go all the way up to 1200, and there's also placement rewards. So at top levels, you'll get, you know, some 4-star covers, a whole slew of elite and heroic tokens, a bunch of ISO and command points and hero points, and all the usual good stuff that you usually get in placement. So how does PvP work? Well, it's a little bit complicated, and I'm sure if you played PvP, you have an idea, and if you played something like Clash of Clans, you have an idea, but I will do my best to try to explain kind of how it works if it's a little bit of a mystery. So, when you pick a PvP event, let's say we're just starting Fly Fight Win, I'm going to start with 0 points, and I'm going to be tied for a really low place. I'm going to have these 3 nodes that I'm looking at, and each node is going to have a rating reward, which is kind of points you get for the event. And over on the left here, we can see this is Sam Man. That's the name of the player whose roster I'm going to be competing against. So if I take a look at the other nodes, there's T. Faludi. He's got like a point value that's lower. And Shiranea with another point value that's kind of lower. So you can see the teams are all different. And what you can do is, on the bottom, you can skip, you can fight, and you see the rewards. The rewards are huge. It's going to just cycle through literally every blue, or every 2-star cover, and every version of every 2-star cover. And I think there's, I don't know, some ISO rewards and standard covers, and you'll get an idea, but it's kind of random. Basically, this is the prize pool that you're looking at. So if I didn't like Sam Man, then I could skip, and then when I jump back in, I'll have like a different person with a different rating reward. And if you take a look at the skip, the victory point bonus goes down a little bit. So if I fight the first person that gets picked for me, then I get 30 extra ISO. So like not a very significant thing. Once I skip 3 times, it starts costing me 10 ISO to skip each time. So if you play PvP, you probably have like a little bit of ISO built up just to skip through some fights, which may be kind of nasty. So the big thing is, well, obviously the team. You want to make sure you're fighting someone who you think you can win, but it's also the rating reward. So the rating reward points get added to your score, but they also get deducted from the person who you're fighting. So what the general idea is that you want to fight fights which have a higher rating reward. So if I take a look, this guy's a 67, that's pretty good. Tifluti's a 24, not so good, and Shirane is a 34. So how do these rating reward points get generated? Well, basically, it's kind of the difference in the event where this person is and you are. So, if you're very low, however much higher the person is however much higher the rating reward will be. So if I'm at a 0 and I fight another person who's a 0, I don't really know what the rating reward will be, maybe around like 20, 30, something like that. It shouldn't be, you know, that huge, or it'll be kind of like a decent. If I am a 0 and I see someone who has maybe like 800, 900 points, and I'm using that as an exaggeration, I don't think it needs to be that big of a difference, but there'll be a 72 in rating reward probably. That's the highest number I've seen. I've been playing for a while and I haven't seen anything higher than that, so I'm going to assume that's kind of like the cap. So if you're a 0 and someone has 17 bajillion points, they'll probably still be a 72. If you flip that, and you had 17 bajillion points, and someone who is 0 saw you, you would be a 72 to them. And if you had 17 bajillion points, and you fought someone who was a 0, they would probably have like 1 point or 2 rating reward points. So basically, that's kind of like how the difference works. So the other thing is, again, as I mentioned earlier, the rating reward goes both ways. You earn the points, and the player who you beat loses the points. So this creates kind of an interesting dynamic. So basically, in an event, you want to be careful about how high you go, because if you race up in the rankings and end up being, you know, top 5, top 10, what's going to happen is you're going to be above everybody else, which means you're going to be a high rating reward value target, and people are going to be hunting for you. So there's not really a whole lot you can do to protect yourself. So, as I mentioned, at this point the shield rating is, I think, 47 or 57 max, which means there's a whole lot of leeway if you're trying to compete in the top, and it's up to you to select. So even if you have, like, you know, maxed out 5-star roster, you can compete in shield rank 1 or whatever. I think somebody probably might have just fought me or something. So anyways, it doesn't matter how low you drop down, you're probably going to encounter stiff competition. So what do? So, of course, you want to put out your strongest roster. If you have full 5-star characters, that'd probably be the best thing. I call it like the fear factor. You want to put out a roster that's just so tough and intimidating that people just don't want to fight you. Even if you have a high point value, you know, they're going to have to really put a lot of effort into beating you, and, you know, beating you may not be a given. So that's one way of doing it. The other way is, if you don't have a really maxed out roster or anything, put out characters that have kind of punishing abilities. People like Thanos, where if, you know, they down one of your characters, they can, you know, or if they down one of your characters, then they'll kill off, like, you know, more, deal significant damage. Jean Grey, who will punish you if you make a 5. Blade, 4-star, who if you get a whole bunch of red, will start, you know, just ripping off, like, attacks on you. Stuff like that. Even Captain Marvel here is a character that has kind of a punishing ability. If you attack her, she's going to start charging up red and black AP. So, characters that heal, like Old Man Logan, you know, they extend the fight, that make it like a longer and more just, you know, not fun thing to do. Doc Strange, if you fire off a power, he's going to punish you. That kind of stuff. You want to put out a lineup which makes it just not pleasant to fight against you. So that being said, you could do all these things and still get beaten. And the reason is of course, there are just people out there who have, you know, level 500, five-star characters, and they're gonna come and they're gonna, you know, take you out if you have a high rating reward value. The other thing that you can do is use shields. So I'm not really an advocate of this, but if you play PvP, it's kind of part of the game. So by spending some hero points, you can throw down a shield for 3 hours, 8 hours, or a day, and you'll see this strategy a lot. If I go and take a look at the player ranks for this event, if I look at the top ranked guys, come on, there we go. You'll see that in the top 10, you know, 7 of these guys have shields on, and that's kind of what you do. If you have a high point value or a high score, you're going to be a target for everybody, and the only way to really protect yourself is to throw down a shield. So again, if you're serious into PvP, that's probably what you're doing. So I think the other thing, and this kind of comes a little bit from experience, but I'm not 100% sure of it. So the further you go up in the ranks, I think you only can compete against people who have a higher rank above you, or maybe equal to you, maybe equal and above. So the further you go up, the smaller the pool of competition will be. If you get within the top 10, you'll notice you're only going against like 3 or 4 guys. If you're on the bottom, you're competing against tons of people. And that works conversely. So if someone else, so the higher you go, you know, you're in a bigger pool versus these, you know, lower scored players, which again makes you a bigger target. So I think being successful at PvP has a lot to do with choosing your teams, having a good roster, maybe using shields, choosing what time you play. There are different times that you can get in, but I don't think it really matters, just because, you know, everybody across the world is playing this game, so, you know, you can't decide to play at like 4 in the morning and, you know, expect that there's not going to be someone who, you know, is playing in like 8 o'clock at night for them. I think the rewards are pretty good. I don't play PvP exclusively, I play mostly PvE. I think for the level of effort that I put out, I get more back, but one thing that's kind of different about PvP fights is every fight is worth, I believe, 2 shield rank points. So if you play a good amount of PvP, it's one way to kind of accrue a bunch of points so you can increase your shield ranks, and with every shield rank, of course, you know, you get a nice ISO bonus. So that's one thing. And also, as we were looking at before, the rewards are kind of better. With progression rewards, you know, you might get like 100, 200 ISO, you might get a standard token, something like that. And at the very end, the 6 reward is generally a boost, which is not great. With PvP, you're always going to get like a standard token, maybe 70 ISO, but you have chances of getting like 250 ISO and 2-star covers, which actually ends up being pretty good. So that, and the fact that you get the shield rank points, actually makes PvP pretty okay. What I usually do is I try to get about 300. So that gets me, you know, a couple tokens, which is pretty okay. And as I was mentioning, with this point ranking system, at 300 I feel like I'm still kind of below the radar. So people aren't really beating me back down. If you're kind of at 300 towards the maybe last day or whatever of the event, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of competition. I was thinking at one point of increasing to 575, because getting these 10 command points is really nice, but if you compete in PvP, you'll notice that at this level, you're going to start seeing some pushback. People are going to start hunting you down. You're going to have a high enough point value where you're kind of a juicy target, so that's kind of something that I've noticed, and I always liked the idea of getting to 900 to get a 4-star cover is awesome, but at 900, you'll notice that you're like in the top 50, maybe top 20, 25, and at that point, people are really going to be coming for you, so you'll either be losing a lot of points frequently, or one thing that kind of sucks about PvP is multiple people can attack you at once. So you can also lose a huge chunk at a certain time. So I think if you're really going to be a good PvP player, you need to, you know, use shields and do all that kind of stuff like that. And it depends if you want to put in that kind of effort for the rewards. So, I myself have never actually placed, I think, higher than in the top, you know, 26 to 50 for an event. I don't really know how I would possibly place in the top 5. If anybody out there has tips, and if they do it consistently, let me know. To me, it's been like a crapshoot. I think you have to have a super duper crazy strong roster to get, you know, top 5, and what you really need to be doing is playing a lot, because one, you need to get up to 900, 1200, something like that. If you take a look at the point values that people have for the top ranked, oh, we're gonna do this again. It's really high, and they're staying there. So I think, you know, somehow they're finding a way to get to 1,000, you know, 1,100, 1,200, and then they're just throwing down shields. So that is kind of what I figure is involved in placing. When I play PvP, I just focus more on reachable progressions. The other thing about PvP that I wanted to mention earlier when I had my brain fart is it's not balanced. So, again, what I mean is, like with PvE events, you know, when you choose a shield rank and all that kind of stuff like that, you kind of have a general idea about the level of competition that you're going to be playing against. And with PvP, again, you can choose a shield rank of 1 and be fighting a guy who has maxed out 5-star characters. So don't get frustrated if you have, you know, a 2, 3-star roster, 4-star roster, and you just can't get over that hump of like 800, 900. Kind of happens to everybody. It's just because the upper echelon of PvP is really where the whales and the people who, you know, kind of make puzzle quests their life are. So my recommendation is if you can win, awesome, you know, good for you and everything like that, but don't get too frustrated, because just like Clash of Clans, PvP is all about, you know, stealing from other people and getting stolen on yourself. So that's just kind of how it works. As I mentioned, I've developed a strategy where I just, you know, go into these character-specific ones, try to get 300, get a couple tokens. That works out for me. I do the shield simulator. I play, you know, sporadically throughout the month, and then I just work my way up to 2,000. This, by the way, is way more attainable than getting high progressions in the character-driven events. So usually by the end of the month, I can get myself to 2,000 points in the shield simulator. So if you do those two things, you have a really good chance of getting that 4,000 in the overall, which is going to get you the heroic 10 pack, which is a nice bonus also. So that's kind of how I view PvP, and you know, it comes around every month, and it's just kind of there. So I would encourage you to play it. I don't know if I would, you know, make it my focus. I know some people really enjoy it. I think if you're more of a competitive player, you might really like to just focus on PvP versus the PvE. I think PvE pays out better, though. So, anyways, that is what I know about PvP, my strategies, maybe a little bit of a rundown on how it works. hopefully it's helpful, and yeah, if you guys have any tips, let me know too, because again, I don't focus on it as much as I do in PvE, and I don't know if I totally want to put the time in, but if there's some tricks that I could implement myself to kind of do a little bit better, I'm all ears. So, thanks for watching, guys, and take care.